1441 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2021 on the civil citizens calendar. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American, Article 3. Court action. I am sovereign, living justice, calling the 50, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona juris, in propria solo, and in propria heredes. My free, chosen, sovereign appellation is like the jury they, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona juris, in propria solo, and in propria heredes. Our full faith, allegiance, credit, energy, trust, and all is hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural divine, de jure, Moorish National Republic federal government, and the de jure ancient state, sovereign state of Morocco. We hereby exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. We are bringing peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is October the 7th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar and 1441 on the ancient sun calendar, 2021 on the Greco-Roman and the civil calendar. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, living, ancient Article 3, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American, court action. I am sovereign, living justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. My free, chosen sovereign appellation is like the jury bay, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona juris, in proprio solo, in proprio heredes. Our full faith, trust, allegiance, credit, and energy is hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, de jure, Moorish National Republic federal government. We hereby exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. So we are talking about money, okay? We're talking about resources and we're talking about remedy. And we're going to continue to put the emphasis on those three: resources, which is money, and remedy, okay? Because that's where we are now. We've developed some things, some bridges that bridge the gap. And so one of the words that I want to talk about right now in leading up to the conversation about moorishe sovereign dollarium, which is gold-backed money, and where that stands and the justification. And it's not really a justification. It's more of just putting the law with what we've done so that it can be clear to everyone that moorishe sovereign dollarium is indeed real money. Not only is it real money, it's the only real money. There's everything else has been fiat. And when I say the only real money, I mean that along with gold and silver and land and all of that, natural resources. It is natural. It is as natural as land, resources, and all that. Why? Because it comes from us. Our heirs come from us. That's why they're natural. We come from our mothers. That's where we got our sovereign status from. Anything that we create is natural. It's divine. It is de jure. It is not under the United States Corporation Company. So we want to put some more emphasis on that so that as you're writing your documents, you can add some things to your documents, and it will also help to answer some of the questions that have been put forth about moorishe sovereign dollarium. For example, I was on social media today, and someone put under there a question about, moorishe sovereign dollarium being gold-backed. And what they said in there, they came over with doubt in their spirit, and that's okay. What they said was, if you can't print it out and exchange it for gold, then it's not gold-backed. My response to them was, we are the gold. We're the source of everything. Gold wouldn't have value if we hadn't said it. And on the other hand, fiat would not have had value if we had not agreed to that. Everything has value because we say it has value and not for any other reason. That's where that comes from, okay? So if we say it has value, it has value. If we say it doesn't, it doesn't, period. It's been that way since time immemorial. That's the law. Anything coming from the original indigenous heirs is exactly what we say it is, because we are the sovereign heirs to all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. Now, where the word document is concerned, I came across this in Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, and it talks about documents because, believe it or not, moorishe sovereign dollarium is a document also, because it is made of paper. It has, and when I say paper, we use natural, like linens and cottons and things like that, and papyrus and whatever else the Moors choose to use as to print their dollarium on. And then it also has a sovereign autograph. Okay, so in general, according to Black's Law Dictionary, ancient documents, its deeds, wills, and other writings more than 30 years old are so-called ancient documents. They are presumed to be genuine without express proof when coming from the proper custody. And what is the proper custody in order for something to be really, actually, literally ancient? Even if we produce it today, it's ancient because we produced it, and we say it is. That's the law. An unrebutted affidavit stands as law, period. So with moorishe sovereign dollarium, it is a document. And excuse the sunlight coming on my face. It's coming through this window that I'm sitting in front of. So we did not know and did not realize that something over 30 years old is considered an ancient document. Well, and we know that, again, Black's Law Dictionary is a little bit hypothecated too. So but we can get some generalities from it. you know. But I wanted to point that out because that's important with regard to all that we're doing. In other words, if we say it's ancient and it's coming from the proper custody, then it is, even according to Black's Law Dictionary. No one else has the authority to say whether something is ancient or not except us. And then you can tell by this definition that the only way they know anything is valid, the only way that anything is deemed natural and valid is if it comes from proper custody. Dillarium comes from the proper custody. And if it, and I'll say this, there have been one or two who have printed out dillarium that are not the heirs. That's not the proper custody. Not the proper custody. We're the proper custody. So, yes, we are the proper custody. So, let's look a little further. Foreign document. Now, because we're talking about, we're talking about dillarium and we're talking about affidavits and all of that. Okay? Just one moment, let me fix that. So what is a foreign document according to Black's Law Dictionary? A foreign document, according to Black's Law Dictionary, is one which was prepared or executed in, or which comes from a foreign state or country. Does Federal Reserve debt notes come from a foreign state or country? And they're not even a state. They're what they call a corporate state, which is not a real state. It's not. And they even admit that they're not a real state. They're a corporation. Federal Reserve notes come from a corporation, so it can't be real. It's foreign. Even by their definition, it's foreign. So they're the foreigners, not us. And yes, those are documents. Why? Because they have autographs or signatures on them. Federal Reserve debt notes have signatures on them, black signatures and dead signatures on them. That's why they call them dead presidents. It's not because the faces on them are dead, which is true, they are dead, but it's because it's a dead document. They've been telling us they're dead the whole time. We just didn't realize that that's what we were hearing. Those documents are foreign, ours are ancient because they come from proper custody, Islam. So paper money is also considered a document based on the definition of the word document. So let's look at the word document. Document is an instrument. Let's just stop right there. Is Federal Reserve debt notes an instrument? Yes, they're instruments. They're dead instruments. But more sovereign dillarium coming from the proper custody is a living instrument. And again, we're talking about money. Remember, there are laws that govern negotiable instruments and non-negotiable instruments. So those who are in finance, you know about that. Every document is an instrument. Every one of them. All affidavits are instruments. All trust documents are instruments. All writs are instruments coming, and if they're coming from the proper custody, it's the proper instrument that for us that we should be using. And it's not a foreign instrument. And that's why we say we don't fill out their documents, because their documents are foreign. That's why we don't do it. So again, we're just expanding on some of the things that we said in the past and showing that everything that we're doing with regard to Moorish sovereign dillarium and any of the documents that have gone out is proper according to law. So now, speaking of that, let's talk about the money. And I put this notification up on social media as well, partially on social media, but I want us to take a look at this, this notification right here. The notification says the following. It says the universal, original, indigenous, sovereign, natural, divine people who are the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government and the sovereign state of Morocco have placed a universal commercial code 1 lien on the United States Corporation Company, the Federal Reserve, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof on August 3rd, 1438, which was 2018 on the civil calendar. It says the dollar for the United States is now the gold-backed Moorish sovereign dollarium. And when I say United States, it's in red and all lowercase letters because it's not a corporation. The United States is all of us together, the United States for America. Okay, that's the heirs. It says the dollar for the United States is the gold-backed Moorish sovereign dollarium, thereby making the Moorish sovereign dollarium the world reserve currency. Now, how can we say that it's the world reserve currency? In other words, that's the currency that everyone can use at Earth. All of the nations at Earth can use Moorish sovereign dollarium if they don't have a national currency, and all gold-backed national currencies can be exchanged for Moorish sovereign dollarium. How can we make that claim? Well, let's look at the definition of a dollar, because see, we've been thinking that a dollar is something that is not. But in the interim, one gold-backed Moorish sovereign dollarium, and we said this from the onset, from the introduction of Moorish sovereign dollarium, one gold-backed Moorish sovereign dollarium is equal to one gold United States dollar. And most have seen a gold United States dollar. It's a coin. But we want to take a look at the definition of the word dollar so that we are clear on what a dollar really is, because it's not what they told us it was. It's not what we thought it was. Okay? So here, the word dollar is a placeholder or monetary unit for the national currency. In other words, it's not the national currency. It is a placeholder and monetary unit that keeps that place so that a national currency can be put in that place. Okay? The United States Corporation Company pretended to occupy the place with the Federal Reserve debt note. That's why they didn't call Federal Reserve debt notes United States dollars, because they're not United States dollars. They were hypothecating the United States dollar, the real money. The Federal Reserve debt note was hypothecating real money. So again, a dollar is not money. It is a placeholder or a monetary unit. It is a unit of value. When we leave the said United States Corporation Company and the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, okay, because they were all included in that, and all of their agents, principals, heirs, and assigns, we said, okay, no corporate covering over the dollar. And dollar is in red and all lowercase letters. And then we said, okay, this placeholder, we're going to put the Moorish sovereign dollarium into the placeholder as the monetary, as the money that is within the monetary unit. So that monetary unit, okay, which was waiting there for a national currency, now has a national currency. So now we can say the United States, the gold United States dollars are interchangeable with Moorish sovereign dollarium. okay? Because that's substance for substance. Well, this was, again, someone on social media was saying, well, if I can't print the larium out and get gold for it, then it's not gold back. Well, what gave gold its value? It's because we opened our mouths and said, okay, gold has value because we say it has value, and we're going to use that as a medium of exchange too. And then we put it in the Constitution. Why is it that we can open our mouths and give anything life and value? Because the real life and value and gold and silver and land and resources and vast estate is us first, before it's anything outside of us. So land and gold and silver and all of that, yes, it has value, but it has value because we say it has value, and not for any other reason. Therefore, the dollar, and we're going to look at the definitions of a dollar because it's further affirmation of what we're saying about the dollar. The dollar is not the money, it's just holding a place there, and there are many other nations that have a dollar, they just call it a different type of dollar. The British Hong Kong dollar, they call that a dollar. Why? Because they know too that it's a placeholder, that the word dollar is holding place for a national currency. So the corpses came up with a Federal Reserve debt note, and they put it in that, supposedly put it in that space of the dollar. So then, when people thought they were using dollars, they were really using Federal Reserve debt notes. So now, in the interest of full disclosure, you were not using dollars, you were using Federal Reserve debt notes. And now we're saying Federal Reserve debt notes are outlawed, and the dollar for this land is the Moorish sovereign dollarium. And the world reserve currency, the Earth's reserve currency, is the Moorish sovereign dollarium. We had to say that because we can't just outlaw the Federal Reserve debt note and not put anything in its place. We have to put something in its place, and the place that the Federal Reserve debt note was holding was there was a placeholder up there at the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of International Settlement, and the placeholder was the United States dollar. But what did the corpses do? They put a petrodollar in there. They put some Federal Reserve notes in there, and they said, okay, this is what we're going to be putting out there as the United States dollar. We're going to put some Federal Reserve debt notes, and we're going to put a petrodollar out there too. Because that's not the dollar, it is what's going to be put in that space that the dollar is holding. So the dollar held the place as a monetary unit for everyone else to peg their money to. Okay? So all of the other nations were pegging their money to the United States dollar, and instead of them pegging it to the United States dollar, the corpses put the Federal Reserve debt note there and then just started printing and printing and printing and printing. And we're saying, no, that's not the monetary unit for the heirs. It's not. The Federal Reserve debt note is not the monetary unit. That is not our dollar. Our dollar is an ancient American dollar. It's a Moorish sovereign dollarium, gold backed. So now, let's look further at the definition of the word dollar in Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, so that we can further prove what we're saying. Just one moment. Okay, let me just make sure really quickly that you all can hear me as we're moving forward.
Yes, we can.
Okay, Islam. Thank you. So now, let's look at the definition of a dollar so that we know that the dollar is not the money, it's a placeholder. And we had to put something in that place because the Federal Reserve note as military script was unlawfully occupying the space of the dollar, just like the corpses were, unlawfully occupying our land. And then they brought their military script with them. So the dollar is the unit, okay, the unit employed in the United States in calculating money value. It's a unit, a military unit at that. Those who've been in the military, you all were a part of a unit, and I was in the military too, I was in the Air Force. We were a part of a unit. Well, so was the Federal Reserve debt note, unlawfully occupying the place of the de jure United States dollar in red and all lowercase letters. It says here it is of the value of 100 cents. It's not the 100 cents, it's of the value of it. And then it says here, money or currency issued by lawful authority and intended to pass and circulate as such. And there's some stare decisis quoted here, Newfield versus United States, 118 F 2D 375, 387, 73 App DC 174. That's the stare decisis, Newfield versus United States. So, again, it must come from a lawful authority, issued by a lawful authority. Well, that goes right on back up to the top of what we talked about at the beginning of this call, which is proper custody, right? We were talking about proper custody of a document. Proper custody is who's issuing it, where is it coming from? And that brings us right back to what our teachers have been saying. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Caesar is foreign. Caesar is a court, a corporation. So we render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. And when I say render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, Caesar wants to tax everything and do all this and that. Well, if we're being in court status, then we have to give Caesar what's Caesar's in court status. All of that changes when we declare our nationality and we get competent on who we are and proper custody of documents and lawful authority, which is us. It has to come from us in order to even be a real dollar. So now, as you can see, and I can hear it in the spirit realm, I can hear you, the wheels turning about how we apply this to our document so that the exchange value and all of that comes into play, okay? It's very simple. If something is, let's just say, for example, a lien document. We do our liens for 100 million for each parcel that that the corpses are unlawfully occupying. Well, when it comes to banking with those liens, then it would be $100 million in moorishe sovereign dollarium. That's how easy and simple the exchange is. $100 million in moorishe sovereign dollarium. It's that simple. And you can say $100 million in gold United States dollars. It's that simple. Or you can say $100 million in lawful money. And they're going to turn right around and be looking at you like, well, do you have the lawful money? Because we didn't have any. And then you got to turn around and give them dollarium so that they can make that exchange at the bank and do what needs to be done. Period. So let's look a little further at dollar, because again, we're not even talking about Federal Reserve debt notes. That's not a real dollar anyway. Not a dollar in red and all lowercase letters. It's not even a dollar in monochrome ink and capital letters. Federal Reserve debt notes is still not a dollar then. More sovereign dollarium is though, by definition. Because we're talking again about proper custody and being issued by lawful authority. And what's the lawful authority? Or who is the lawful authority? We are. What gives us that, what supports or affirms that authority? The Constitution. So no one can say that more sovereign dollarium is not real and be telling the truth. And I'm sure some are saying it just because they've never seen real money in their lives. They've only seen Federal Reserve debt notes. And so now we actually have to show them that real money looks like this. This is actually the real money. By definition, in law dictionaries and on the world stage, quote unquote, the world stage, at Earth, by definition, more sovereign dollars because it is issued by lawful authority. So now, I also looked up the word dollar in, I looked up the word dollar in the Webster's 1828 dictionary, the Webster's 1828 unabridged dictionary. And when I looked it up, this is what came up. It's what our teachers say about the dollar. It is short for Jacobsdollar, and that's what it says here, Jacobsdollar, so-called the Jacobsdal, Jacobsdale in Bohemia, where the silver from which it was coined was first obtained. So when they were talking in the news, there was something about a place called Bohemian Grove in Khalifa territory. They were pointing you to the money. That's the place where the silver from which the first dollars were coined was obtained, here on this landmass. So, number one, it says the monetary unit of the United States equal to 100 cents. And the symbol is this S with one line. Now, when they were hypothecating and this transition was being made back in 1933, where they were transitioning from gold being the dollar and the gold-backed money being the dollar, when they were transitioning and the corpses were coming onto the world stage with the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 and 1933 happened, when all of that happened, the S had two strikes through it, which meant that there were two versions of it. There was the corporate version, and then there was the lawful version. So whenever you saw a dollar sign with two strikes down it, that meant that it was that there's more than one iteration of that dollar. So now when we talk about dollars and we're saying more sovereign dollarium and the United States, the gold United States dollar, we have only one strike down there because from our perspective, there's only one real dollar. the rest of that, by definition right here, is proven not to be a dollar. And that's why everything is nominated in dollars. Earth-wide, it's nominated in dollars. So let's take a look a little further here at dollar. Number 2, the standard monetary unit of various other countries, such as Canada, Australia, Liberia, Ethiopia. The Mexican peso is even a dollar. In other words, there's no place on earth that doesn't have a dollar. It's just what they call it. But ultimately, no matter what money they're using, if they're using gold-backed money, it is pegged to the gold United States dollar. And that never changed, by the way. Despite what the courts did and published all out there, just like jurisdiction, it cannot be waived even by consent of both parties. It's still the same. The gold standard has always been in effect on the land. We just needed to put it on the public record, say it, and put it out there and let everyone know that we're awake, we're back, and let's move forward. And that's why we did the gold standard announcement back in September of 2019. Because it needed to be said on the public record, okay, the heirs know about the gold standard, they're awake, etc. And we're moving forward with all that, you know, the vast estate and access to it by the heirs. So, number 4, any of several monetary units, any of several monetary units. And when you say monetary units, you're talking about money. Federal Reserve debt notes ain't money. It is not money. So, there again, any monetary unit, which means more gold-backed Morris sovereign dollarium and gold United States dollars, 1-to-1. 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 Because we said so. And then number 5, here it is again. A coin or piece of paper money. Not just any piece of paper, but paper money. Did you know liens are paper money too, though? Sovereign, original, indigenous liens done by the Moors on government letterhead, stamped and sealed by the government, which is the Moors, is money too. That's paper money. A coin or piece of paper money of the value of a dollar. So 1 Morris sovereign dollarium is of the value of a gold United States dollar. And we said that from the very beginning, but we're really, really happy to expand on that at this point because it's necessary as we go forth doing our demonstrations that we know what exactly how to express what we see on paper. And know what we've been looking at the whole time. Okay, so again, a dollar is a store of value. That's what they call it on the financial channel. It's a store of value. It puts value in a particular place. But then something has to be in there. What is the value? The value is going to be whatever is sitting in that space as the store of value or as the inventory in the store of value. What's the value? The value is gold, which is the Moors. That's us all day, every day. We've always been the value. We even gave Federal Reserve debt notes some value just by us using them. And they're not worth anything if we don't use them. So why wouldn't Morris sovereign dollarium be worth what we say it's worth? And we're using them. By the way, thank you to all the Moors who've been sending your monthly $300 in Moorish sovereign dollarium to us to assist us and support and affirm the work that we're doing with these national calls, our General Assembly, and all of the other phone calls and just the everything. The dollarium helps us do all that we're doing because that is our dollar. And guess what? The money, the payment, the form of payment determines the jurisdiction. So I posted on social media the other day that we have, the Moors have sent in, which I'm so grateful, over $300 million in Moorish sovereign dollarium in donations for what we do. And I'm grateful that that's not taxed. It's not taxed because we're the IRS and we say it's not taxed. And that's how you keep it from being taxed. So, and we have actually quite a bit more than that. We've just not made it through all the emails. So I'm actually in the process of training some help with the emails, even as we speak. As of today, training some assistance with the emails so that we can get through them and get a better, more updated count of the donations that have come in. Thank you so much, Moors, for sending your donations via email. That is our electronic funds transfer system. That is also, email is also a blockchain, which most people don't realize that we've all been using blockchain the whole time. If you've ever had an email address, you've been a part of a blockchain. What is that? That's a chain of communication that everybody in the chain can see. So anybody that you want to see your chain of communication, you just forward it to them. That's a blockchain by definition. See, they you know, the courts has put a lot of color on the definitions, and you know, they do color of law, color of authority. But when you break it all the way down and just get a dictionary and pull up the word and look it up and see what's being said about it, it's broken all the way back down, and everything all comes back to the Moors. Everything comes back to us and our resources, our land, and all of that. The electricity that they're generating to do Bitcoin and all that, so that's ours. All of that is ours. So I digress. Let me go back to the dollar. So again, a coin or a piece of paper money of the value of $1. And then number 6 says a Spanish coin, and we know we are Spain, we're France, we're America, we're the brutish Moors, we're Europe, we're the first of all of that. There's no place on this earth and no people that did not start with us. It says a Spanish coin used in American Revolutionary times. That is a huge hint. That's a huge hint right there. Because when they say a Spanish coin used in American Revolutionary times, that means that it was used to make the transition. Because we know that the American Revolution was not a guns and horses and, you know, people out on the battlefield going back and forth. That was not the American Revolution. The American Revolution is what we're undoing right now. It happened on paper. Capitalism came in and tried to take the place of the heirs. That's what the American Revolution really was. And the quote-unquote Civil War, and the quote-unquote World War I, and quote-unquote World War II, and all of that. All of that is how far along they got in capitalizing things. By the time they got through capitalizing all the other lands, or, you know, making it look like they capitalized everything, they called that a world war. But it had to start first. Now look at the timeline. All of that warring and stuff had to start here first. So they started it here and called it a civil war. What's a civil war? Well, when people are civil to one another, that means they may not like each other and, you know, they might be at odds, but they're being cordial and observing cordiality and, you know, saying, you know, they're not arguing back and forth. They're being civil, but there is an undercurrent of war going on. That's what a civil war is. That should have told us that it was not about no guns. It was about the paper and capitalism. Using capital letters to craft documents that look like the original documents, but they're not the original documents because they're in dead ink and capital letters. That's what the Civil War is. It started there, so it had to start here in a civil manner. Then it turned into the American Revolution. Then it turned into the World War I and World War II. All they were doing was expanding capitalism on paper. They said once we got the Moors at America, then we can move out and enlarge and take capitalism everywhere and take fiat with us. And that's what they did. And we're just doing that, but back the way it should be. That's why we say that the Moorish sovereign dollarium is equal to the gold United States dollar, and the gold United States dollar is the world reserve currency, the gold one. Interchangeable with Moorish sovereign dollarium. So what does that mean? That means that we're reversing that war trend, and it starts right with us right here. It starts right here with us. And when it starts right here with us, it's going to go from civil to American, quote unquote, to world, just like those wars did. But now we got peace coming by way of removal of corporate military script off our land. Corporate military script. Because that's what Federal Reserve debt notes are. It's military script. Those are military instruments. Those are weapons of war. They are. Especially when you're dealing with a whole nation of creditors. If you're dealing with a whole nation of creditors and debt is what the creditors are using, then there's some confusion there, and we know that war means confusion. Right? It does. So I want to take a look here down at the bottom, because this is important, right here at the bottom. Just one moment. Right here at the bottom, take a look at that definition at the bottom. What does it say? It says, just one moment. It says dollar diplomacy. Dollar diplomacy. What is dollar diplomacy? I happen to like dollar diplomacy when you're talking about our money. Dollar diplomacy, the policy of using the economic power or influence of a government to promote in other countries the business interests of its private sovereigns and companies and their commerce. I like dollar diplomacy, with a few changes in the wording, of course. So now let's look a little further here. One last thing that I want to bring forth today, and I'm going to put the link to this in the chat. That's why I opened up the chat. I'm going to put the link to this in the chat so that you can see what's going on where private commercial paper is concerned. Look there in the chat and you will see the link to a story. And I want us to take a quick look at this story before we take a pause here, because it's important that we know that everything must get in alignment with what we're doing. It has to. Yes, Justice Dearmore says, now we are using delirium diplomacy to bring peace to every part of the world. Absolutely, yes. Yes, we are. That was the point of all of this. That's the point. So let's take a look at this, this article here, because I want to show you how the rest of the earth is saying everyone needs to be themselves. And if you're not being yourself, then there's a price to pay. Okay? This story was in the Bloomberg newspaper and across its news media. It says China is blocking fleeing Hong Kongers from getting their retirement money. And then it lists some of the financial institutions who some authorities in Hong Kong have said, you all cannot leave here with that military script. So who was it that was trying to leave Hong Kong? Because they were fleeing, they were trying to get out. They're trying to run and take their military script with them. And Hong Kong, some authorities there are saying, no, you cannot take that military script with you. Why are they saying that? And this is why I wanted to bring this story up. Right here on the screen, let's just read, and this is dated August 19th, 2021 on the civil calendar. It says, as tens of thousands flee Hong Kong for a new life in the UK, they're confronting the risk that they will be forced to leave behind their retirement savings as China intensifies its crackdown on the city's freedom. Scores are being denied access to money in the mandatory Provident Fund because of the cascading impact of Beijing's decision in January to withdraw recognition of British national overseas passports as valid official documents. And I'll let you read the rest of that because you have the link there, and I'll place the link to this story under this video on YouTube. But what's going on is that there were some there, about 300,000 of them there, who were in Hong Kong calling themselves nationals and coming there with documents that say, we're the nationals, and this is our national passport, and we have this retirement money, we've been working here, and we have this retirement money, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not even real money. It's fiat, it's military script. So what happened? The ones that are the authorities over military script have said, we're confiscating all military script. That's really what's happening. Because the Moors said, we don't want that debt on our land. So what are they doing? They're finding every way they can to take as much of it as they can from everybody who claims to hold military script. And recently a story came out about how the one doing business as Joe Biden was saying that if anything over 600 fiat Federal Reserve debt notes is reportable. Well, those are military actions. Those are military actions, and they're even talking about that some more. Now, this is where Delarium is going to come in handy, because they're looking at Cash App and PayPal and all of that, and if you get over 600 Federal Reserve notes or credits on Cash App and PayPal, they're even saying there that that's confiscatable. So we we must. And that's why I said, you know, we're in transition. Anybody that's, you know, still using Federal Reserve debt notes, you know, you can't tell sovereigns what to do, but we've got to enforce the Delarium now. We must enforce Delarium right now. We have to. We have to. Because it's getting to the point where the Federal Reserve debt notes are not going to be here. The debtors are taking it with them when they go. The debtors are taking it with them because we said so. So yesterday we talked about discharging debt. What is discharging debt? We looked at the definition of discharging debt. Some have been talking about using the 1933, you know, House Joint Resolution and all that. The House Joint Resolution of 1933 did not work en masse. It worked for one or two here and there momentarily. But the reason it didn't work en masse is because in order to discharge debt, you have to have something to put in its place that is credit. And the discharging of debt, when you give Delarium, that's extinguishing a debt on their end because we don't have any debt. All we're doing, they came here with a bunch of debt, and all we're doing is saying, here, take this Moorish sovereign Delarium right here. And what does that do? That means that the subjects are no longer indebted that way. So then what does that mean? That means that the corporations who are not the subjects, because corporations are not, they're corpses. The corporations have to take the debt with them when they leave. That's discharging debt. Because, see, when you pay a debt, that means the debt is gone, completely like away. Okay? Discharging debt is when the debt is moved over to the proper custody. Because we just talked about proper custody. Well, proper custody for debt is corpses. And when we do a court action and we send the corpses to Guantanamo Bay, guess what goes with them? Their debt. And then we decapitate them there. That means remove them from office. They're unlawfully occupying the office of the board. Period. So giving more sovereign Delarium at the grocery stores and everywhere else, the conveyance dealers and real estate, you know, exchanges and all of that, that's doing them a favor. That's helping them out. We don't have any debt. Everything already belongs to us. Someone asked me on social media, what can you pay for? What can you purchase with more sovereign Delarium? We don't have to purchase anything because everything already belongs to us. We're just extinguishing debt on our land that we allow to come onto the land. Now let's take responsibility more. We allowed the debt to come onto the land. We got to take responsibility and extinguish it, and this is the way to do it. We can get a lot more done with Delarium than we can anything else, and you know that's not even the whole crux of the matter because we can do whatever we want. But this is a way to extinguish a lot of debt really quickly for them. That because see again, the subjects are still on our land. But they were acting in corporate status. So we got to get all of that out of here. And the things that are exchanged are just things. We can get the things. The things are not the issue. Conveyances, not the issue. Domicile's not the issue. We got that stuff. It already belongs to us. All we got to do is competently do the exchange. And the exchanges happen between us. And then we're going to be showing how to further do that even more competently. And we're going to have to demonstrate it ourselves too, because usually, generally, we demonstrate something and then we talk about it because it's better that way. So from our perspective anyway, we demonstrated. We demonstrated court actions in POW camps and how they can get you out of there. We demonstrated, gold standards. We demonstrated when policy enforcers come to the door for 3 weeks straight and, and what do? You do court actions on them to stop them from coming. Get in your proper status and be yourself. We've had to demonstrate those things, and those are not the easiest demonstrations to do just because of the amount of programming and fear levels, but that goes away after a while. The more you demonstrate things like that. So, this is no different. We're going to demonstrate this too, even more so than we already have. We've already demonstrated how we can use it to get, to extinguish anything that has to do with fake courts. We already showed how to do that in the previous video, how we did that. It's one of the emphasis had gotten us, they had given a quote unquote, given her a ticket. Corpses can't give the living anything. And then she did a court action by email and copied them in and put in 10,000 in diall in the email. She downloaded it and scanned in and did autographed it and bright red thumbprint on the diall and uploaded it back into the email and sent that to me as a court action and included them on it, the fake court in Miami, and then and we showed you that on the document. And then ICE did a court action back, and they dismissed. They didn't dismiss it. They closed the case against their court, actually, which is actually now not a court. It's a monochrome instrument for the heirs to use. We sent the court because she had already done a court action on the court. The courts had been sent to Guantanamo Bay, and now you're dealing with a monochrome instrument that is an instrument she can use. It looks like a name in black ink in capital letters, but it's not. It's not. That's not black ink because black means pale. So, and then the policy enforcer was dismissed. So those are remedies, remedies. And the money was the biggest issue. And that's where the most programming and the most psychological operations happen with the Moors, is the money. That's where the psychological warfare was just going and going and going. And I hadn't even thought about that in the beginning. In the beginning, I was just thinking, how do we get past fake judges and fake policy enforcers? And so once the ancestors had me to demonstrate past them, we weren't even thinking about the script. We were thinking about the script, but I knew that once we got past that, we could get, anything else would be a piece of cake to get past, So, because to me, that was the biggest, quote unquote, paper tiger or monster in the room, was the fake court and the fake policy enforcers. From my perspective and from my programming, from when I first came in, that was my first question for the ancestors. So, with that being said, are there any questions or comments about anything that we have shown here Again, with regard to the story that's on the screen, Hong Kong is saying you cannot use military script. You're not going to be moving a bunch of military script. We're going to take the military script, especially if you're claiming to be a national. If you're claiming to be a national, you shouldn't even be dealing with military script. That's what they're saying in this article. Is nationals don't use military script. They use real money. So I wanted to point that out because that is a precursor. It's a precursor. A precursor, and I don't mean precursor as in the word curse on anyone, because we don't curse people. But it is a foreboding. It's a foretelling. It's a prophecy. It's a word ahead of time. And the word is nationalize, 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 and then start demonstrating more sovereign so that you don't have to think you have some resources that you don't have with fiat and quote-unquote retirement accounts and things like that. Our teachers have told us that 401ks and all that wasn't going to be here. They told us that. So now what do we have? We have more sovereign. That's why we can print as much as we want and use as much as we need to use. So I am going to I'm going to take it out of lecture mode, and if there are any questions or comments or anything with regard to this, again, the story with regard to China is you know, we need to be getting ready to you know, to do things differently. Islam nobility. Islam,
sister. How come you're not using the?
This is the yeah. Anyway, did y'all hear that? They're even saying Islam. That was the hybrid. Wow.
Excuse me, ma'am. Why aren't you?
There it is. Islam. So, if there aren't any other questions or comments from the heirs, let me just check the chat to be sure I haven't missed anything. Just one moment. Yeah, Justice Islam Empress.
So I have a random question. So because the treaty that we've been looking at is between us, the United States, and the treaty is supposed to be between two nations, and the United States is not a nation. So do you still call that a treaty?
Yes, because remember, Empress, the United States in red in all lowercase letters is us and all the other Moorish nations.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that fixes that.
That's the real United States. They hypothecated it and capitalized it. That's all they did, was capitalize everything.
You're right, because they're not supposed to be governing as the United States. Yeah.
No, they're not. They're corpses.
Islam, Empress.
Islam, there's corpses and subjects. Islam.
I got a text the other day about the Supreme Court ruling that, D.C. we had no citizens or something. You remember that?
Yes. So, yes, I do. So what they're saying is that the Washington District of Columbia Corporation is the Supreme Court Corporation has said that the Washington District of Columbia Corporation is not a state. Well, if it's not a state, and according to their code and the things that they've been doing, everyone,
Paulie, you're a fucking
even
liar,
outside of just a moment, even outside of, because see that this needs to get out there.
Yeah, he don't want you to say that.
All of those citizens, yes, all of those citizens that are outside of that 10-mile by 10-mile place, thinking that they're citizens of the United States corporation company, and thinking that there's a state associated with that, they're stateless. And the Supreme Court is now saying, yes, all of you are stateless. All United States corporation company citizens are stateless. And now you're hearing it from them. They said that in 2018, but they weren't going to put it out there on the public record for everybody to see yet. But now it's coming to light because we're the state.
Islam.
And so there it is. There it is. And now what are they saying? Now, this is important because I talked about this a little bit yesterday. What are they saying and who are they using in order to push the agenda for the citizens? Because, see, we're not going to leave the citizens hanging. We're not going to leave them hanging. We love them. They have done some work here. They did what we asked them to do, okay? What we said to them was, it's in the Circle 7. Let me read to you what we told the citizens to do and why they're really here. Chapter 29 of the Circle 7 says magistrate and subject, because they're all subjects. And we are the justices and we're the magistrates, okay, according to the Circle 7. So why are the citizens here and why are we not going to leave them hanging? Because that's what we're talking about now, because they're being told now that they're all stateless. And it doesn't matter where they are, they're stateless. It says, so why do we have them here and why are we not going to leave them hanging? It says, chapter 29, verses 1 and 2, my favorite in the whole book, almost. O thou, the favorite of heaven, that's talking about us, whom the Son of Men, that's talking about them, the citizens, thy equals, and when they say thy equals, we were all thinking we were citizens, and that's why they say all men are created equal. So that's that connection. It says, O thou, the favorite of heaven, whom the Son of Men, thy equals, have agreed to raise to sovereign power and set as a ruler over themselves. So the citizens, everything that they've been doing, the policy enforcers and everybody, they've been roughing up Moors and everything trying to get us to wake up so that we could step into our sovereign power and rule over them. And then it says here, consider the ends and importance of their trust far more than the dignity and height of thy station. And then verse 2 of chapter 29 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science as divinely prepared by Prophet Noble Judicialle, it says, thou art clothed in purple and seated on a throne. That's the air. The crown of majesty investeth thy temple. The scepter of power is placed in thy hand. That's the ink pen, the red one. It says, but not for thyself were these ensigns given, not meant for thine own, but for good of thy kingdom. That means everybody on our land. Everybody is a part of our kingdom. And kingdom being the empire, the sovereign state of Morocco. So the citizens were here, and, you know, I'm not happy about all the things we went through because it was scary sometimes, very scary sometimes. And I've seen more suffer, and that my heart goes out to them because, you know, we've been tested too. You know, we've had to go through some things too. But it was for this reason, to raise us to our sovereign power and to have us to rule over all. That's what all of that was for. So now, where does that leave the citizens? The citizens are now saying, okay, we've been acting like we were this government, the state, the law, and all of that, but we're not. We're stateless. So now, help us. Rule over us. Rule over us. That's what the citizens are saying. We want to be moorishe subjects ipso jure. Now, I don't know about you all moorishe, but I say yes. They can be moorishe subjects ipso jure. It's in the book. We're not mad at them. We love them. They went through a lot too. They lost some too in this whole waking up the Moors and all of that, you know. It's been a journey for us. It's been a journey for us.
Islam.
But that's why we created them. Yes, that's why we created them. Yes, Islam nobility.
I got to say this. I got to get this out. How is we make it okay to reward them for their ill deeds? It doesn't deserve, or I don't ask or demand a response, but I had to put that out. Islam. Yeah.
Okay. Now, nobility, I can hear what you're saying. I hear your energy, and I understand the energy. I understand what you're saying. And it's valid pain. It's valid pain, and it's valid testing that we've all been through. We've been through some stuff. But you have to, but here is something that I would like for you to consider, please, because you can't tell sovereigns what to do. But just think about this for a minute, and think about it for a lot longer than a minute, if you choose to do so. We are the gods who created them. Why did we create them? So that they could raise us to our sovereign power. They could assist in raising us to our sovereign power, in waking us up. And they would not have been able to do a darn thing to us if we had not consented to be something we're not. So we can't be mad at them. We really can't. We cannot be mad at them. Because ultimately they didn't have a choice. They had to do what we said. Just like they don't have a choice today. They still got to do what we say. The sooner we realize that they have to do what we say, the better off we'll be. The anger will go away when we realize how powerful we are. And we can always tell when Moors don't realize just how powerful we really are, because there's still some anger and some frustration. And again, I said, we feel you. We understand that. Islam. Say again, nobility.
What does the history say or state or have a record that we were forced into consent?
We were never forced into consent. I know that's frustrating to hear, nobility. I can hear the frustration, but let me explain to you how we were never forced into consent. Do you agree, nobility, that ignorance of the law is no excuse? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree that we must be ourselves regardless of even threat, duress, and coercion? We still have to be ourselves. Do you agree with that? Or do you say change up under threat, duress, or coercion?
Absolutely not.
Okay, then no one could have ever, even if they would have put a gun to our heads, which, you know, they had weapons, but even if they would have done that, we still had to be ourselves. If we were to be truth and them a liar, we make liars out of people who say that we're not who we're supposed to be, when no matter what, we're going to be ourselves. So if you'll notice, even with them, all their weapons and threats and all of that stuff, we're still here. We're still here. We're still growing. We're still governing. We're still, and we're more powerful today than we've ever been. Because even with threat, duress, and coercion, and some more think that threat, duress, and coercion is a reason to, is a reason to fold, but it's really not. It's really not. Why? Because the gods have to be the gods, period. And I will say this, that when we're ourselves, no matter what, the ancestors honor that above all else. And even if something were to happen, which it hasn't and it won't, yes, we've been roughed up a little bit, we've had our arms twisted, we've been thrown in jail, but we've been through all of that several times. But we're determined that we're going to be ourselves, period. There is no force as far as I'm concerned. And that's just me speaking about, about us, because we're the gods. Even when there was a whole a group, a whole bunch of them at the door of the cell, when I was doing the demonstration in the POW camp. Listen, I did not care. I was not going down for any of them. I didn't care how many were at the door. I didn't care how many tasers they had. I didn't care how many guns they had. I didn't care how many of them was out there. I didn't care. I was not going to be their citizen because I'm not a citizen. And they did that twice, and actually 3 times that last day. And they were even outside talking about, I just want you to know that the state of Washington is coming in now. They're going to bring in a crisis team. Big deal. I'll be right here with the court action waiting. So that's how I know that no one, just a moment, that's how I know that no one can force the gods to do anything, because I've lived it. We couldn't even, listen, they supposedly had the keys to the door of the cell. But they can't breach the eternal contract that the Creator gave them. They cannot breach that. I know that. Our ancestors will honor when we stand.